It lacks some of the much more technical, cinematic camera director of photography features, but it works for making really good YouTube videos and kind of. I use it for my documentary filmmaking and stuff too, and I really like working with Sony.
Cool. So that's an introduction. Let's rewind a little bit and welcome to Standout Coffee.
Thank you.
Why you're in Stockholm? Okay, not why you're in Stockholm. Who are you?
Or both.
Both, yeah.
I'm the Nomad Barista. That's why I'm in Stockholm, because I have to go and check out all the different coffee scenes. Yeah. I'm Brodie Vissers. I came to Stockholm because there was the Nordic Coffee Fest last weekend in Gothenburg. My first time in Gothenburg. I essentially say it's the first time for me in Sweden, but technically that's not true, because I think, it was in 2014. I took a one-day trip to Malmö from Copenhagen, a one-night trip. We stayed overnight and then came back.
But not for coffee.
It was before I kind of was really pursuing coffee. So it was more for just being on the onsen.
Cool.
But being in Sweden, this trip has been definitely eye-opening. Really nice for me to learn. I came to Nordic Coffee Fest because I wanted to learn more about the Nordic coffee scene. As I mentioned, I've been to Copenhagen a few times, but there's more to see, of course. I gave a little talk on the Sunday as well at the festival, a topic that I was really passionate about. And it was just, I love coming to shows when I can, because you get to meet so many people from the industry all at once. They're all coming together. You don't have to go around and find them. I loved it.
I sadly had to decide, because I'm judging now for 4 days in the Swedish Championships, and with family and kids and stuff, and it's like this sports holiday this week, so I couldn't go on both. Yes, and then we have the issue of there's the London Coffee Festival in April, and it's the same weekend as the Seattle Coffee Show as well, and we are kind of invited to both.
Oh wow!
So we maybe need to split up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at least you have a team. You have a few members on the team, so you can kind of be both places at once.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's nice. So how did it all started for you with coffee content? Kind of what you do.
Yeah. So the story that I like to tell is, it really started for me, I think, back going back all the way, I could say probably started for me with skateboarding, right? Because I was growing up skateboarding for many years. I loved to explore as a skateboarder. It's kind of really a big part of going around and skateboarding, finding new places to shoot videos and photos, and just make tricks and be with friends. And so another big part of skateboarding is filming and photography. So they just kind of always went hand in hand. That's what drew me to getting my first camera as a teenager or whatever. But I didn't really know much about photography at all, and I went away to university, studied urban design, which also I think was a good tie-in to my love for urban settings and design and architecture as a skateboarder, and then later on as a someone working in a sort of urban design environment and getting in touch with environmental issues and also transportation issues. Halfway through my university degree, I moved to China for a year. And that was partially for skateboarding, partially for, soul seeking. And
so you can do your kickflips?
I can do my kickflips, yeah.
Nice. I actually pulled up a few heel flips when I was young.
Oh, yeah.
But I always a bad kickflipper. I found it easier to make like a 180 kickflip than just a regular kickflip.
Like a varial flip?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how some people gravitate more to the heel flips, others kick flips.
Okay, sidetrack. Then I actually started going into BMX more.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was a similar segue for me. Not so much BMX, but while I was living in China, I actually discovered the joys of a vintage road bike. Because before that, I was like, I don't need a bike. I have my skateboard. I'm gonna go explore skateboarding. But I was living in Kunming at the time in Yunnan, coffee growing province, and I'll get to the coffee side in a second, but like the cycling was just such an amazing way to move around the city. The public transit at the time wasn't that great. The metro was still under construction, and it was an 8 million population city, but to get from one side to the other was just actually more efficient to take the bike. So I learned, I fell in love with cycling, urban cycling specifically.
Fixed gear?
It wasn't fixed gear. It was like a 10 speed or whatever. And to this day, I still have,
Yeah.
actually, it's not a 10, it's like a 6-speed at this point, but I love the old vintage bikes and just like feeling of them. And
But it's so fun that you mentioned, because when I started Drop Coffee back in the days, all of these kind of people came to us. There were climbers, coffee nerds, of course, bikers, like barbers, and what I think, and I'm also like a gamer way back, still love it, but it's like this, I don't know if it's like the geeky DNA that you have that kind of connects people, and especially with I got into, we got like into the fixed gear stuff through the climbers who came biking to us, and everything should be like minimalistic, and in the end I think it's like a way to like throw your nerdiness onto something, and same with like skateboarding or painting or whatever. And then like coffee is the connecting hub, because there's so many geeks that are into stuff like hardcore, and then they love coffee, so it's cool.
I agree. I love that about kind of going deeper. I think there's got to be a theme there about someone.
You need the rabbit hole.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, you know, you pick one, whether it's climbing or cycling, but usually there's a bit of crossover. And I find that even with coffee people, coffee professionals, they also probably like exploring the world of natural wine. They also like, you know, some interesting foods and maybe tea, you know, maybe that's a little bit more of a side thing, or craft beer. I see that we're in like this brewery, which is a great connection. But yeah, for me, so cycling.
You were in China.
I was in China. I was cycling around. So I say that because it was, I think, the first iterations of me just embracing what it means to explore. Just go off the beaten path. Just go find something new. Even when I was let's get into this coffee very quickly. I wanted to cheers and take a sip, and then I'll get to the whole exploring side.
You stalked Veronica a bit? Did she tell
She told me it was a thermal shock.
Okay.
You tell me.
I don't know. I have maybe no. It's hard to have a guess. It's a amazing, a really beautiful thing. Veronica comes in every morning, and she blindly brews us a coffee every morning, and we have to challenge ourselves. In most cases, it's a coffee from our range, but in many cases, it's one of the amazing samples that we got in. And I actually overheard them a bit, so I think it could be a coffee from Café Granja La Esperanza. But I don't know that much more. We haven't bought it yet. Is it true?
Okay.
Is it wrong? Yeah. Is it? Is it ours?
It's ours.
Oh. Let's discuss it a bit more. I want to dissect it before I go into the whole exploring thing. But basically, when I went over there and I smelled it, I'm like, okay, this definitely has like a unique fermentation aspect to it. She said thermal shock, and now tasting it, obviously it's had a chance to cool down a little bit. I think, it's very. I'm getting a lot of almost like grape type flavors to it. It's quite fruity. It's not too acidic, which I like. It's got a little bit of that, fruity acidity for sure.
But is it? Should I tell you? The guess? I'm guessing. Is it the new Nestor Lasso? Yes. Okay. Good. So we just released. It's the Obligon.
Okay.
The new competition variety.
Okay.
It's actually here. So there you go.
Nice.
And it came online like a few days ago. And a short commercial break for our coffee subscriptions.
Yeah.
Because we for a long time had specialty coffee subscriptions that we just kind of pick and choose coffees that we just roasted and we ship them out. But there was always this like for a subscriber, we started getting emails in like what will be in my next subscription, and we need to kind of figure that out. And we have a rotation of coffees. They can sell out quickly when wholesale clients come in and buy like big chunks of coffee or competition comes up. So for now, in the subscription of specialty coffee, the jars, you always get the latest release in your subscription box, and that kind of ticks off what will I at least get in my next subscription. So and the good thing is like we always have like a very high-end, top rare coffee in the jar. So this one is it's an expensive one, but yeah, all the subscribers will get it. So that's cool.
Yeah, let me read a little bit of the description because it's got the yeast anaerobic natural, which is pretty much what I guessed when I was like smelling it. But I didn't know about the thermal shock, and the Ombligon is something I'm definitely new to.
And me too, actually. It's actually Alexander's who sniffed it up. He always has this kind of tentacles out on the competition scene that I don't really have. I think he can like name the guy or the girl who came like third in the Polish or the Irish or States or whatever, and the Ombligon is it's on the rise. So
yeah, loved it.
Good. It's a lot. Sometimes when you are around these kind of thermal shock anaerobic environments a lot, it could be hard to like, is this the process or the actually variety? But as a client of Standout, I think you want to be on the journey of like what's on the competition scene. Now as well, we're releasing from Nestor Lasso as well, Sidra that comes in the competition box, and that's also like a cool thing to be able to try out. It's not that easy to find good Sidras and especially these high-end ones. So commercial break over.
Well, it's all a journey, and I want to just wrap that thought up because you're right. For me, as someone who loves to explore and I love trying new things, and I think, especially when I first started to travel more, I had to try new foods. I had to, and I started to discover new things such as, like we were talking about, natural wines or the coffees, or living in China, just trying really, really nice quality tea. One of them being a pu'er. Right, which most people, even if you're a tea lover, you probably haven't tried pu'er. Some of you have, which is great. Pu'er, I almost have you tried it? You know what I'm talking about? Okay, this is great. Great example. So pu'er to me is almost like having an anaerobic natural for coffee, except it's an ancient, it's a more traditional method in Chinese culture that comes from the place of pu'er, which is in Yunnan. And so it's a city and region where they I guess this tradition came from, and it's a green tea that's been oxidized into a black tea, which has been fermented into a pu'er tea, or what they might call I think they call it like a black tea or a red, or no, not a black tea, red tea, right?
Yeah,
like hong cha.
Yeah.
So that it's. My mom doesn't like it. She says it tastes or smells like a barn. So it kind of is like that,
For the natural haters out there, they know the kind of...
Exactly. And actually coming back to, different preferences that people have, I think there's always going to be people who are turned off by any natural coffee, saying that it tastes like compost or smells like it. For me, again, coming back to, I'm very experimental. Like, I love to experience new things. I loved the whole naturals, anaerobics, these funky fermentations. I remember going to this farm in Toraja, Indonesia, a few years ago, just on my own Nomad Barista journey, made a few YouTube videos, and then came back with this coffee that had been fermented and roasted by a local roaster there. So like really, really micro lot. And I remember tasting it. I'm like, wow, this is so unique that it tastes like cheese. It tastes like this kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it. Just like this very pungent, like a manchego or like a Parmesan, very acidic cheese. Now I'm not a huge fan, but in the beginning I was like really getting into it. I think everything swings on a pendulum,
and also to wake your interest of, in this case, coffee, that you could do stuff to the coffee that really impacts the flavor of it, and that kind of sparks interest, of course. When you get into something like, I love bikes, and you realize there's more than just two wheels in a brake or something, and I think it's so cool to see now what's happening from the producer sides, like what we get in, what wins competitions, and how like the boundaries is so pushing forward now, because they really start to figure out how to make good processed coffees. So, and that knowledge is spreading like really, really hard now. So you can find amazing coffees in like all ranges of prices, which is super cool as well. So okay, when did you go back from China?
So I came back in 2013.
Okay.
So after that period of time, filming, skateboarding, falling in love with cycling, and I started drinking coffee there because that was my initial connection to coffee, was the fact that I could live in a region where it was so close by. It felt very tangible, even though at that moment I didn't travel to any farms, but I would go to a cafe and I would see 2 different Yunans on the menu. I'm like, wow. What do you mean 2 different coffees? I thought coffee was coffee. Yeah. And there's not only 2 different coffees, not like an Ethiopian and a Colombian, it's 2 different Yunans. Yeah. How can this be different? Yeah. And the fact that there was a few local companies that were working with local indigenous people. So Yunnan actually has the highest majority of minority people groups, some that border over into Tibet, some that into Myanmar and Vietnam. And so that was just so interesting to me from a cultural perspective. So I came back in 2013, lived in Canada, met some people who were super into coffee, the coffee nerds at home, the Chemex, the scales, the grinders. And I remember it took me a few times of trying, specialty coffee with them in that setting. But it was definitely one moment drinking a Chemex Ethiopia natural, I'm pretty sure. It was probably like a Yirgacheffe, super popular during those years. Still very popular.
The bridge into special coffee.
Definitely.
That's like a natural from Ethiopia.
Definitely. And so I recommend, usually to people, if you're like, you want to try specialty for the first time, try natural Ethiopia. It's going to really, it's that extreme that you can go to recognize, okay, this is what's possible, and then explore, start exploring the other stuff. Yeah. That's cool. That's what got me into coffee, and then it's kind of just been a winding journey.
When did you start your Instagram account?
At that time, actually, 2013, because I was getting into photography. I was photographing a lot around Asia. I was traveling a little bit in different places in Asia. And so as a photographer, I had a really good friend of mine that I studied with, Alan Palander, who was also really diving into photography and started growing his Instagram account. And he's at close to 1 million followers on Instagram. His whole life is surrounded by making content for really big brands, and so he's been a big inspiration to me. But especially in those first few years, he was saying, just post on Instagram as a photographer and see if you can grow your audience that way. And over the years, it started to take more of a shift into specifically coffee, to the point now where I'm exclusively doing coffee. And of course now videos and, for example, Reels or Shorts or TikTok is very popular, and it's a great way to get more reach and more exposure. So I do focus more on video, less on photo. But that's how I kind of made my way into just focusing on coffee content. Yeah.
But I love that you can post a video, but you can still upload your thumbnail or like the true picture. Yeah. I love video. I don't know if I love sound, but the setup is okay, and I would like to learn more about everything around it. But like a good quality still photo is just a photo is a photo. So we should remember that when we are winding this up, we should take profile pictures for that, because we always forget that.
Oh, let's do it. Yeah.
I know.
Okay.
So have you been competing?
I competed in AeroPress.
You did?
Yeah.
What
happened? A few times. Yeah. So
for Canada, or how does it work?
So I was living the first time that I decided to do AeroPress. I used to travel with the AeroPress a lot in the early days, because it was just very, very minimal, very practical. So I loved AeroPress. And when I was living in Barcelona back in 2017, this is my kind of one of the times that I lived there. And I decided, why not? Why not give it a shot? I'm not a barista competitor. I had only been working as a barista for about a year, and I decided, what can I lose, right? And so I was actually inspired by a recipe from a Canadian who's from Vancouver that I had heard about through the coffee vine, and my friend told me about this recipe where you divided out different parts of the extraction. So I kind of just came up with my own version of it, and happened to win for Catalonia. So it was the regional. At the time, I think there was only 2 regionals. It was probably Catalonia and maybe like Madrid. And so I won that one, got this nice golden AeroPress. And then I went to the nationals a few months later and totally bombed first round. And then I tried a few more times, both in Barcelona and when I was living back in Canada. At the time I tried again and bombed first round. So I was just like, you know what? I'm tired of this. I just want to, make content. overly competitive. And I felt like I'd rather leave that to the people who really care about that kind of thing and really want to do it. But yeah, so I've competed in AeroPress a few times, haven't competed in anything else.
That's cool. Yeah, I had numerous years of competing. I think I've been in the Swedish Barista Cup finals like 5 times or something. I won 2013 or 14. Competed in Melbourne in the Worlds.
Oh, nice.
Back in the days, we had the Nordic Barista Cup, which was an amazing like team competition thing. So we were lucky enough to win with the Swedish national barista team, which was an amazing journey. And that kind of led me into me dropping off because we started traveling a lot. Me and Alex were in Panama a few times, and I realized I wanted to do something else. So I proceeded my journey with e-commerce and digital marketing at Johan and Nyström back then. And yeah, fast forward, we're now sitting at Standout Coffee and kind of doing the same thing, e-commerce and taking photos and selling roasted coffee, which is it's a great. You have a podcast, right?
Yeah, so that's why I was very excited to come here. And normally I'm the one traveling, setting up my camera gear and interviewing other people. My podcast, the Nomad Barista, kind of follows the same project. It's really from the very beginning when I started my blog called the Nomad Barista, it was about going to different cafes along my travels. Yeah. And actually, instead of documenting the cafe and taking pictures of the latte art and saying, oh, here's some of the coffee origins that they work with. All that's important. I felt like it was more interesting to me to go and meet the owners and to find out what made them start a coffee business. Why design it like this? Why in this area of the neighborhood? Kind of going back to my urban design, roots. And then, of course, document it through photography and writing. And so over the years, kind of done a bunch of other different types of content, but come back now with the podcast with that in mind. So for me, it's really about seeking out coffee professionals and coffee, some cases just coffee nerds, but maybe they have a project or entrepreneurial mindset or coffeepreneurial mindset. And so that's what the Nomad Barista is about. And so I'd love to turn it around to you now and learn a little bit more about what got you started with Standout. I know you mentioned already a little bit about you and Drop Coffee from the very beginning, 2009, I think it was established. And so I'd love to hear like a quick progression of, okay, what I'd love to ask to all my guests is what got you into coffee and then what got you into coffeepreneurship or at least being a coffee professional. Yeah. We'll take it from there.
So back in the days, I was studying like graphic design and arts. I started to work as a bartender, and I kind of leaned towards. I didn't realize it that I had an interest for taste, but I found the interest of the wines that had like transparency, and you can like read about where it came from and even taste notes. Like otherwise it was just like a gin and tonic, but I didn't really realize it. But there was actually Alexander, who I met back then. He said to me like, yeah, you know a little bit about wine and you should really come along to this bookshop that's called in Swedish it's konstig, but translation wise it's strange. And it was really strange. It was this bookshop at Södermalm, and they decided to have a small coffee bar inside, but you weren't allowed to like make any sounds. So when you were like grinding coffee, all the like guests in there were like, shh, don't make a sound. Oh. So it was really strange, like all the setup as well. But they had, it was Per and another guy called Alexander Sjödin. They had like a Colombian coffee from Huila as a single espresso, like no blends, no Italian bullshit, just a pure coffee. I think it was David Haugard roasted it, or maybe copy, but I'm not sure of that. And Alexander brought me there, and back then, 2007 or 8, the espresso in Stockholm cost like €1. That was the standard. And I think they charged like 4 or 40 kroners or something. It was just like for a single espresso. But I had a sip of it, and then kind of my entrepreneurship mind kicked in, because first of all, it was amazing. Like no burnt, no bitter. It was floral, fresh, like in that sense. And I realized like all the cafes in Stockholm and in Sweden and like everywhere in the world was just like Italian dark roast driven of what I've found. I wasn't into the scene. Alexander was. He was an early like, I think what's called Flickr or something like a photo. He has some super early stuff from Square Mile and James Hoffman.
Oh yeah.
I don't know, it's 2005 or something. It's like way back. So we had this venue that we had like a co-working space in, and he brought his espresso machine there because he was a photographer back then, hiring a desk. And I was starting to experiment with coffee, and our clients came and they wanted more coffee, so they brought their friends, and that kind of fast forward turned into Drop Coffee. In the beginning, I wanted to name it Drip Coffee because that was kind of an influence we saw from Asia, like the early pour overs. Do you remember when you were about to like pump or bloom your coffee? Like you had a dark roasted coffee, and it kind of you had like multiple blooms.
It puffed up a lot.
Puffed up a lot. So it was super cool.
Yeah.
And now we're roasting too light to make that really happen. But I think the goal was to also like keep the puff up all the time, like a small mountain, and you kind of pushed it. And Drip Coffee was the work name, but then I realized the double O's in Drop and O Coffee, so it kind of worked together better. We started Drop Coffee, and that was we were pushing something new. I think we were one of the founders of the Scandinavian roast or the Nordic roast profile or whatever. Like we were so scared of being connected to anything dark roasted that we almost didn't even roast the coffees. But we did something new, like what we talked about, like all the fixed gear and barbers, and everyone hanged out, and we had a super nice time. 2011, I think we got into competing, and we won our first national championships back then, and then we kind of dominated the competition scene a lot, with Jelle winning latte art, me winning barista, Alex winning brewers. We had Nico, Joanna later won roasters, I think what we did back then was competed as a team, and helped out a lot because we were coming with a great idea, and like 4 of us did it, and the chances were skyrocketing of anyone winning. So we had a great time for many years and expanded the roastery, and then 2014 I decided to kind of pursue in my own journey, and the seed or the idea behind Standout Coffee was born during that time. First, when me and Alex were sitting watching Alexander Mendes win the World Barista Championships in Bogota over Pete Lecara and Matt Perger, I think, or if it was never mind. We asked ourselves, where can we kind of find these kind of coffees? And then a few years at Drop Coffee, we still were like people. We know that there were amazing coffee. I won my championship on coffee from Café Grange La Esperanza, the Cerro Azul, a washed one, and it was super expensive compared to what we did. But we never really took the step full out. At Johan Nyström during those years, we released some crazy stuff from Graciano Cruz, his bamboo estate from Panama. But it was only like 50 boxers or something like that, just a pop-up thing. But no one really believed in it. And during my 2 years at the Espresso House, this is 2019 to 21 or something like that. A bit fast forward, but I kind of realized I was getting way far away from my core passion, like competition style coffees. And I decided shout out to my wife, who actually was like, do it, because you want to do this. So Alexander has been for numerous years working as a professional coffee consultant towards the competition scene, roasting a lot, winning a lot of competitions as a roaster and as an amazing coffee sourcer. And I always poked him like, you need your e-commerce store up, you need your website, because you literally had to like call him and hope that he picked up. Like a lot of relationship-driven sales, and that's like the true foundation. I mean, Standout Coffee is his network of baristas and coffee competitors. And I said to him like, you need to get yourself like a checkout button, like where to buy. And he jokingly said like, when you quit your job, you give me that. And then we got along in the beginning of the pandemic, and I said I'm ready to give you that checkout button. And so we built the site during the summer of 2020, I think. And in February 2021, exactly 3 years ago, we had our first sales. And when we started Standout Coffee as a fully e-commerce driven coffee roastery, we did it in English. We had through Shopify like the reach of their global checkout system, and I think one of our absolute first sales was to China, to a client we still work with today.
Wow.
And yeah, we got an order from Armenia 10 days ago, which is now client in 77th country. Which is crazy.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And yeah, thanks you. And it's just like still like one, but I love to believe like, I know what it's called in English, but like rings on the water kind of effect.
The ripple, right?
Is it a ripple effect? And I think we talked about the ripple effect last podcast with Alex.
I remember listening to that.
He said
too.
like ripple effect. I said that's a great word, and now I didn't remember it, but that's truly what it is. And we see what happened with our subscription, because we are subscription-based driven a lot. The introduction code that we had leaked on South Korea's biggest coffee forum. So overnight we had like a bunch of subscribers signing up with 70% rebate or something. It was only for like 15 baristas globally to try out the shipping system. But then we got like, I don't know, like 60 or 70 overnight in South Korea. And we were like,
that's a lot.
That's a lot for like from going from zero. And but I remember I gave them all an email, said sorry, this wasn't really how it was supposed to be, but I will set the code to be active for 3 months, and then you can choose if you want to proceed with it or not. And they were all super happy. And I also wrote with one like, but you need to share 50 grams of your 100 grams in the box to a friend, or at like a coffee bar or something.
Oh wow!
And then it really like started popping up from all sorts of, especially countries around Asia. And Alexander is half American, so we were lucky enough to be able to go to especially Drip Coffee in New York and get some coffee out. And now we have our biggest market for private clients in the States. So, but otherwise, Hong Kong and now China is a lot. So that's kind of how it all started.
So there's a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah, a lot of word of mouth, and same on the competition scene. It's like one barista is competing, maybe getting some extra good scores, and then recommends, and it's super nice. So now we've been up and running for 3 years. We have the box, as you mentioned. We have the jar, the 1 kilo, and we now have a price.
Oh yeah. I wanted to actually ask you to quickly talk about the prize and what you won, because I know there was 2 roaster competitions.
Yes.
One was, I don't even remember what they were called, but you won the Public Choice Award. The other one was Best Roaster.
Yeah, the Best Roaster. So I think...
How were they chosen? Because I know one was all of them were using doTERRA.
Yeah.
And then
so
they
we got
roasted it.
doTERRA shipped to us. We had one coffee that we were allowed to send ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We chose Diego Bermudez, that we've been working a lot with. A pink bourbon, double washed, and then like crazy stuff as always. Pink bourbons, as they are quite crazy.
Mm.
You need to like I don't like to word the thing with the name Standout Coffee, because now it comes like you want your coffee to stand out, but that's not what really, like I rarely think of that as our brand name. That's something that stands out. For me, it's like Standout Coffee. Never mind. If you want to win competitions, you need to stand out. Like I think we did that with the philosophy of roasting, our kind of secret sauce, how we roast the coffee, or Alexander in this case. But also an amazing coffee from Diego. So we got the Daterra, super nice Brazilian coffee in, and we got to send something. And then there were like 2 competitions, the Public Choice Awards and the Best Roaster. And for the Best Roaster, all 22, might be wrong, I don't know how many roasters there actually were, but I read 22 somewhere. They blindly cupped everything and scored everything. And yeah, you could, in that case, score your own coffee, I think. And then they just collected the scores, and that is kind of the best of the best. The roasters choose the best coffee. We won the Public Choice Award, which was the second award or the other award, where like, I don't know if it was 2,000 or more people. You were there. It was a lot of people, right, attending. Yeah. And so you maybe can, because I couldn't go, but you blindly could try all the Brazilian ones, and you could blindly taste all the just sent in coffees from the different roasteries. Yeah. There was the Saturday was all Brazil. That's the one that I got to try. And then the Sunday, I think it was all the different coffees. So the one that you won was the Diego Bermudez? Yeah. Or was it the in combination of both. Oh, I see. But we won the public vote. The ones where people got to go, and it was all brewed on like the Mocha Master or whatever. And then so what I got super happy about when we won it is that it's actually chosen by the public. Yeah. And it's like super high-end coffees, because I knew people sent in like beautiful geishas and other pink bourbons. I think Lauri from Good Life Coffee also had a pink bourbon. So I think it's a smart competition coffee to really push through. I know washed geishas could sometimes be hard to brew and not really punch through on a battlefield of that many amazing roasters. I haven't realized that we actually won. There was so many good roasters there, like all the people that I've been looking up to for all these years, and it's I didn't even realize that the Nordic Coffee Fest was such a big thing, because I was only focusing on Veronica Alex going, and also them being in this like locked up room where people like blindly, and then I got the first pictures in of all the roasters like cupping their own coffees, and I was like, okay, this is, I didn't realize like how big it was, and then I saw the venue and like all the booths and everything. Oh my god. But the people from Slayer just arrived, and we were there. I knew Brewing Coffee. We were at the Nordic Coffee. Yeah, we were in a different. Did you try our coffee at the fest? Yeah, that's good. Got to try some. Yeah, it was a really nice event. Yeah. And did you do any like podcast stuff around there? I did actually. Yeah. So you had Alex on your previous podcast, and we decided to do a short one while we were there. At the end of Sunday, you know, when everyone was wrapping up, we took about half an hour to just chat. But I also I'm probably going to do a compilation of different conversations. I did a few with different roasters or people who were working there that I felt fit into a specific theme, which was about exploring the cultural traditions around coffee and how the modern approach to specialty coffee can potentially be inspired by and you know, take some reference to those traditions of the past. So that was kind of the theme, my theme. But why don't we wrap up? You have some guests, and one thing that I usually like to ask, maybe you have like an ending question too. I think you're more professional. I have one more question. So you are on YouTube. Yeah. You're on Spotify. Are like your following account similar? Because when we started posting our podcasts on Spotify, it kind of just took off in terms of views or listeners or anything. But what's your
Are you talking about the type of audience or the amount?
the amount?
Oh, no. It's my Spotify. For anyone listening, subscribe on Spotify. I don't have nearly as many listeners on Spotify yet. I think it's more of a slow growth, it seems. YouTube has been a slow growth as well.
Yes.
But it's all about finding that right topic and the right audience and being consistent, I think. I think those types of social media strategies is a whole new podcast in itself.
Yeah.
So we could talk about that next time. But yeah, hoping to do, more stuff like this to reach, more audience in terms of what I think is important is discussing like the coffeepreneurial journey and just giving people different options if they want to get involved in the coffee industry. There's so many options now, and it's changing every year. It's evolving every year, and so to be able to show people, hey, look, you could be a roaster, you could be a barista competitor, you can be a barista, but you can also be a content creator, and you can also be a green buyer. Oh, what's that? Do I have to go to the coffee farms?
Hue grader, cupper.
Exactly.
Like you can get into, like I'm slowly going into the judging. That's cool. Because in the beginning, that was the question, like, so I have a good barista working for me, and she or him want to do something else. And then there's like only one goal, being the roaster, like being on the pedestal of being the roaster.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, there's only one path, and that's like opening your own shop. But as you say now, there's so many options, and that is amazing because we want people to stay in the coffee industry.
Yeah.
Especially in the specialty coffee industry,
And I also want to reiterate that on the coffee producing level, which is something that we talk about a lot in this industry, but there's also a shortage of labor for people staying on the farms, and this is something that I've recognized during quite a few recent trips to farms, specifically Central America or South America, that there's people kind of leaving the family business because it's either doesn't seem as attractive, as profitable, or they decide that they can do better either in the big cities or even moving to the United States, for example. And so how can those positions and those projects on the farm level become more lucrative but also more attractive to the next generation? That's something that I hope we can explore more. I don't have the answer, but I think that by demonstrating that there are other career paths, not just the conventional ones that maybe the next generation is bored by. But for example, when I was in Colombia, I met up with Lucia Solis, which I think quite a few people in the industry know about. She's American Guatemalan, and she's a coffee processing specialist, right? So she's really gone down to the nitty gritty of what it means to process coffee and teaching that to producers so that they can do a better job with utilizing whether it's specific yeasts or specific types of fermentations to take their really good quality green bean and preserve that, preserve that quality and do something unique with it, put their own little signature on it, right? So to me, that's another interesting, even within the realm of coffee consulting, it's even further niche.
Yeah, like there's so many cafes that could, with like just a few days with a good coffee person, raise their level of knowledge and quality in the cup by miles. So subscribe to your YouTube, subscribe to your Spotify and your Instagram, and same with us. It's cool. I love this kind of like bridge building things because there's many of us, we're like brand new on the podcast scene, but just to get other stories than ours, it's just great.
I love it. I learned so much from listening in, and I feel like this is just like this is a cheat code. It's a hack. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I love the long form ones because I feel like you really get into things with different types of people from different industries and around the world. Listen up to Standout Podcast. Try out the coffee. The question that I had relating back to social media was, if you could make a post, let's say an Instagram reel, a TikTok, maybe a video, or it could even just be a photo with a nice written description, and it was going to reach millions of people around the world. What would you want that post to convey? You knew that it was going to go viral. It could go viral for the reason that you choose, not just what the algorithm chooses, what would you want that post to convey?
It would be nice to showcase the aromatics that you get when you pop up a jar for the first time. Like, to go through social media when you open one of these jars for the first time and just like, that would be nice.
Maybe like an ASMR of the jar.
Yeah. But it's a good question, but
some fruits floating above your head, like in emoji form.
Definitely. Do this like Sora AI video extra.
Oh no.
No, but
I'm scared.
Like what we do, we roast and ship beans and to really get that out. It's like but it's hard to show quality in those kind of things. So yeah, if you can pull off like an aromatic thing, that would be nice. I don't know.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
In the next few weeks.
Yes, definitely. And everything will be linked. Everything will be found from descriptions and stuff. We talked about you get the video files, and we can do like 2 different ones, collab posts, and we should remember to take 2 profile pictures, because otherwise you have to take it from the video. That's just crap.
Let's take some photos.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So nice to have you.